How is it going, everyone? Welcome in. Make sure everything's working here. It's been a few weeks, I think. It's been a while since we've done this. So we're live on Instagram. Should be live over here. Pop out the YouTube chat over here as well. Live on both. Sick. Looks like everything is working smoothly. Awesome. But yeah, we're back with Coffee Break. I don't really remember. I gotta run through what all happened. It was a 24-hour stream last week. That's why I missed. And I think I did the week before. I think I was able to do the week before. So I think it's just been like every other week right now. But next week we should be back. We should be back on a normal schedule at this point. That should be the goal. But before we get into, while we wait for some people to roll in here, I wanted to highlight a few discs that I know are either on the site or hitting the site. I think the big release this week is the Solar Flare FD3, which I think is like a Horizon. It looked like it had some like metal flake type something going on. FD3, it's S-line. Feels like S-line. I don't know the actual plastic. There's also Supreme EMAC Judges restocking. And then the Halloween Glow Gorgon, we wanted to highlight that. I think that's already on the site. We also had a bunch of Halloween stuff hit the site last week, and a bunch of Innova stuff, all of that fun stuff. So, you can check all of that out over on the site. And then this week, obviously, the new stuff. But the big thing is we just had an MVP restock. I see someone asking about MVP in the Instagram chat. The other big thing is we're going to USDGC this week. So Jason and Brad are leaving tomorrow. So they will be there Thursday when everything starts vending. And then myself, Trevor, Connor, we're all going down Friday. Silas is going to be there soon too, but I don't know what day Silas is coming down. But we'll be there for the weekend. We have some really exciting, I don't have any of them on hand. We have some really exciting drops happening at USDGC. We have some, I'm trying to think, we have a custom stamp exclusive USDGC stamp on Discraft. We also have some USDGC merch. We have some shirts, stuff like that releasing, not USDGC branded, but like a patriotic theme, we'll call it. And then we also have some more Connor Shamans, some Robbie C Wizards that are going to be the like Robbie C logo instead of the typical Wizard logo on there. We also have a brand new Connor Wizard that I'm not going to reveal more than that, but that's at USDGC that'll be releasing. And we have the Hunterbird, my custom stamp Thunderbird is going to be releasing at USDGC. Any of that custom stamp stuff that is like the Hunterbird, the Connor Wizard that I'm not going to be talking about, because I want that to be a surprise when we get down there. Shout out Norway. I see someone wanting me to shout out Norway. The Connor and Shaman and the Robbie Wizard, all of that stuff, if there's leftovers, we'll be making it to the site. But if you want to guarantee you're going to get it, you got to be at USDGC, which you want to be at USDGC anyways. So there's a good reason to be down there. But yeah, we got a bunch of cool stuff dropping there, and then that stuff will be hitting the site the next week if there's any left over. So it depends kind of how the sales go down there. I would assume there's going to be some left over, at least of like the Hunterbird. I think there's going to be some of that left over. Probably either Connor's Shaman or Connor Wizards will have a few left over. We have a decent bit of both of them. I have a feeling the Wizard, when people see it, that's going to sell out. And then the Robbie C Wizard, we got a decent bit of those too, so we should have some of that on the site next week. So not this upcoming week, but next week, because this week we're all down there. So we don't have a ton of restocks happening because we're all going to USDGC. But there is still going to be some stuff on the site. The emails still go out, all that fun stuff. So be sure to check out that and then say hi to us if you're going to be at USDGC, which you should be. But what I wanted to highlight quickly at the top of this before we get into the Q&A section is I just discovered this. I don't know when this actually got released, but I was listening to this podcast I've talked about on here before called the Founders Podcast. And more or less what this guy does is he reads a bunch of typically like biographies of successful entrepreneurs and different business founders and stuff like that. And he records a podcast episode summarizing all these different people's like careers or the way they think about things, all that stuff, right? And so I love this podcast. It's awesome. But he did one on this leaked memo that MrBeast had. He did this podcast episode recently. I think this memo is from a while ago, But essentially what it was is this 36-page memo. I actually printed it out for me to go through. It's a 36-page memo that essentially MrBeast sends to his new employees. It's been confirmed by several employees there that this is legit. That reveals a bunch about how they think about YouTube, how he runs his business, so on and so forth. MrBeast right now is kind of getting canceled for several different things, but I think everyone can agree no one knows YouTube like MrBeast. So, with that being said, obviously a lot of knowledge that's in here can be used for us with YouTube, and if some of you are interested in YouTube. And so what I did is I read through it. I sat down and read through the whole thing, like, I don't even know when was this, like Thursday night, and highlighted a bunch of stuff and then sent it to our media team, everyone that has a hand on YouTube. I sent all of my notes to them Friday morning, and so I thought I would just kind of read through my highlights from that. If you want to find this leaked memo, you can go on Google and find this memo. It's out there just for people to download, just like a Google Doc. But it's a very interesting memo. It gives you kind of insight into probably the person that knows YouTube the best, other than the people probably at YouTube, and he probably knows it better than most of them, and kind of what they're looking at. So I thought it'd be interesting to at least go over some of this stuff, and then how it applies to us, and then you can kind of interpret it how or if it applies to you. But this first part, I think I've talked about this on here before. I've talked about it on several things before. It's no surprise here. He said the three most important YouTube metrics are click-through rate, average view duration, average view percentage. So if you're not in the YouTube sphere, essentially the click-through rate is your YouTube tracks how many impressions your video gets, and then the click-through rate is just the percentage of those people that saw your video actually clicked on it. So click-through rate is heavily affected by titles, thumbnails, etc. Then the average view duration and the average view percentage kind of go in hand. So let's say there's a 40-minute video. The average view duration is 20 minutes. Then the average view percentage is 50%. So those two go hand in hand, but they're two different stats because one, the average view duration tells YouTube exactly how long each video is keeping the average person on the platform, whereas the average view percentage is all about the retention of that specific video, i.e. if you have a 10-minute video, it's only going to have an average view duration of 5 minutes if it's 50%. That is obviously going to be better than a 20-minute video with a 5-minute average view duration, but both are keeping people on YouTube for the exact same amount, if that makes sense. Next point was the titles are equally as important as thumbnail for getting someone to click. In general, the more extreme, the better. You had a bunch of examples of this, but I think this one, for me, a lot of times get lost because the thumbnail is so important, but you forget the thumbnail a lot of times stops the scroll and then people read the title. So just a reminder, titles are very important. These next two, first minute of each video is the most important minute of each video. That's where you kind of have the sales pitch. Then minute 1 through 3 is the next most important. This is where you transition from the hype you built in the first minute to execution. And then he said we also want to do something around the 3-minute mark called the 3-minute re-engagement. This is something that is highly interesting, that fits the story and makes people genuinely impressed. If we can get people to watch the first half of the video, there's a high chance that they will watch till the end, usually around minute 6, which, side note, I think for minute 6 for MrBeast seems to be about the midway point for a lot of his videos. They tend to be like 12 to 13 minutes. Obviously for us in the disc golf world, that can a lot of times be like, this would be like minute 20 or minute 15, depending on how long our video is. But anyways, around minute 6, we'll include another re-engagement that is highly interesting but needs a little more explanation, and we will push the story in the back half of the video. The key takeaway there is if you get someone to watch the first half, that has a high chance they'll watch till the end. You get them to watch the first half by what you do for the first 3 minutes of that video. So minute 1, you might not notice, but over the last several years, we've changed our intro, where originally we just right away went into the explanation of what we're doing. Now we give you a high level, almost clickbaity, but not clickbait because it's actual what we're doing. But the initial wording of the video is all like trying to match what we feel the vibe of the thumbnail, title, all that's going to be. So the first, for us, it's like 10, 15 seconds, just explaining as quickly as I can, driving the point home of what we're about to do. Then there's a logo bug. Lot of controversy, not really controversy, but some people think that's pointless. Some people think it's important. For us, I want it there just for brand. And then we immediately go into the explanation of the challenge you're about to watch. So that's kind of how we attack minute 1 through 3. I definitely think we can rework that some, especially after reading all of this, but that's how we currently do it. So But it was kind of encouraging and cool to watch different how he views those. And one thing we don't do, because it's really hard for us, because his videos are obviously planned to the second. Our videos, we don't know what's going to happen out there. So we go out to film 13 holes. We're filming 13 holes regardless. We don't know where the 3 minute, 5 minute, 6 minute point in the video is. But it is something to kind of keep in our back of our mind of the re-engagement. Like at some point, probably around hole 3 to 5 or whatever, we want to do something to re-engage the audience. So that is a cool thing to take from. This was a big one too. He said, anytime we do something that no other creator can do, that separates us in the audience's mind and makes our videos more special to them. And this was something that's easier for MrBeast because they're just working on a scale that YouTubers aren't working on, right? Like they can put $1 million into a video. But it is something to still think through of like, what can we do or what can you do that no other creator can do? Or at least that no other creator's thinking to do. And that will separate you in the audience's mind and help it stand out. The next point he drove home was creativity saves money. The example he uses that for a gaming video, they could give away $20,000. That's a lot easier to come up with that idea than giving away a year's supply of Doritos. But to him, he thinks that would be more engaging to their audience. And when he did the math, that would end up only costing $1,800 instead of $20,000 for something he believes that performed better. So essentially just taking that next step. Don't just accept the low-hanging fruit, which is a similar thing. This is funny because this is in a completely different section, but it just shows you kind of how he thinks about YouTube rolls over into how he thinks about life, which is if someone says something's too good to be true, find out why. If it's fishy, investigate. The simpler, the better. The simpler, the better, I think, was a line that I thought was very funny to hear from him just because his videos can feel very complex. But if you bring it down to the root of it, then like his videos are very simple. Like the last one to leave this circle or the last one to do whatever gets X, Y, or Z prize. That is a very simple concept. But then what's complex is all the little like intricate details, if that makes sense. So the next few are just about how he treats employees or how he views employees. Back to YouTube here, he says for videos to do well, you must get their average view duration and average view percentage as high as possible. The longer people watch, the better a video will do. This one makes perfect sense, right? Like this is one that I think that as soon as you think about it on all social platforms, this is of course going to be like when you think of a social media platform, what they want from you as the creator is for you to create something that keeps people on that platform for as long as possible, because then that platform has the best chance of monetizing that person, right? So obviously the statistics they're going to value the most are the average view duration and the average view percentage. That makes perfect sense. And you can see that when a video gets into the algorithm, whether it's on Instagram or on YouTube, anytime we've seen that, a lot of times either the average view duration is really high or on like YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels and stuff, people are watching 120%, meaning the average person's watching this more than once. That's, a really big thing, and that's what he's saying here. Strong payoffs at the end of videos boost retention. This is something we weren't thinking about before that we're now thinking about a lot more, which is the end of the video. He also talks at the end here. The video endings must always be abrupt to protect retention. We've always thought a different way, which I'm now realizing is probably incorrect, where we're like, if someone makes it to hole 18, they're not going to click off because you just watched, 9, 13, 18 holes of us playing disc golf. But if you look at our analytics, there is this tail off when we start doing the outro because people are watching, we finish the hole, and they leave. And that little tail off, I don't think it drastically hurts the video per se. We're talking about a few percentages. But if we're talking a few percentages, that could relate to thousands of views, which can obviously relate to money. So making that be as abrupt as possible or having a big payoff at the end helps people stay all the way through, increases viewer retention, increasing how much YouTube is willing to push. So that's something you'll probably start noticing soon is our endings are going to be a lot more abrupt. So that was the main stuff that I think is relating to YouTube from this 36-page memo. If you're a content creator, I highly recommend reading it just because, like I said, this is obviously MrBeast as a person right now is going through it, but he is like the leading mind on YouTube, and he's writing this to employees that are coming in to work for him saying, hey, here's things you need to know as a content creator, I don't think you can ask for a better document. Like, this is the guy who has cracked the YouTube code, basically revealing some of his high-level key things. So I would highly recommend reading that, but those are some of my takeaways that I sent to our team of, like, here is some things that we need to be either rehammering home or at least rethinking about when we're making YouTube content. So, all right, let's get into the Q&A section here. I saw a few different questions. I saw one question that was a little bit ago. I don't remember who asked it, but he was asking if there's any big YouTube videos coming up. And yes is the answer to that. You will find out more about it all, I believe, next week. But I think 2 weeks from now is when it actually releases. So as soon as the off season starts, we have what I'm going to say is one of the most successful execution-wise pieces of content series that we've ever done. Very, very excited about this whole thing. So I don't want to spoil any more than that. A lot of you who have been watching me do these coffee breaks or your Patreon subscribers for a while now, you know kind of what I'm alluding to here. No one really knows all the details, but that'll all be revealed in due time, soon enough. And but what I can tell you is it's going to start Tuesday, October 22nd, and then there's going to be several weeks of every Tuesday this thing releasing, this series releasing, and I cannot wait for people to watch it. So if it goes well, it'll be an annual thing, but we'll see. We shall see. But yeah, some big YouTube stuff coming up for sure. I mean, even this week, today's video is basically Trevor and I playing to affect tomorrow's video, which is Connor and Silas taking on Winthrop Gold down at USDGC. I mean, which is just two back-to-back. Today's videos probably won't be a banger per se. Like, it's going to be more just about the impact of tomorrow's video. But I think it'll still do well. But tomorrow's video is going to be a banger. I mean, it's going to be electric. They played best shot doubles. They had different lines. One line was for the reward. One line was for the punishment. Then the in-between was like, just stay alive. You don't get rewarded, but you don't have to do the punishment. So very excited about that. That releases tomorrow on our channel. So let's see. Can we do a quick post-mortem of the 24-hour stream last week? Yeah, great point. Since I didn't do this immediately after it, the 24-hour stream was overall a success. I don't know. We'll probably end up doing another one at some point. More or less, it was funny because how we planned it was we had this like wheel of activities that were all not necessarily punishments, but they were expected to be punishments, like, because they were chosen of just like mind-numbing tasks that we were like, this is gonna suck at 2 a.m. Such as doing Sudoku, playing chess, building a puzzle, untangling string, running a mile, so on and so forth. But what ended up happening is that was like the most entertaining and engaging part of the stream. So it's a good takeaway, good thing to learn, because now we know the next 24-hour stream we plan, that we can put more emphasis on the non-putting part. Like it was funny because we, in the middle of the night, there would be like, while we're putting, maybe 180 people or so watching us putt. And then I would finish putting, I'd finish my task, and I'd start playing GeoGuessr. And as soon as I started playing GeoGuessr, that number would climb to like 250, 270. It would depend on like what hour of the night, because people were like really engaged with that part. Because when we were putting, we're just putting. We weren't engaging with the stream. So people were checking in and leaving. But when they checked in and we were playing Sudoku, playing chess, playing GeoGuessr, whatever it may be, then people were really engaged with it. So that was definitely like a note to take into the next one. But yeah, overall it was great. It was a blast. And it didn't take as long to recover from as I thought it would. It took I think by Thursday or Friday, I was back to normal. So yeah, overall went good. Jake W. Getty says if there's a prize or consequence in the video and the video in the end could show it. When Connor wins ice cream, and the end could show him ordering/eating ice cream. Yeah, we get that suggestion a lot. A lot of times the problem why we don't end up showing it is like we will win ice cream per se, and we don't just drive straight to get ice cream because it's either like some days I have to run that day, and I'm like, well, I'm not getting ice cream right now because I have to run in like 30 minutes. So we delay the ice cream until like one day when we're just all out and get it. Other days we're filming in the afternoon and we finish the video like when the work day is over, and it's like, well, if we go get ice cream right now or go do whatever the reward is right now, then we're gonna be home late. And like, it's kind of a hard one to explain to your wife, I'm home late because I had to go get ice cream with the boys. So that's typically what ends up delaying it or putting it off. But when there's a big reward or a big punishment, we do make content out of it, like the live stream until you ace hole 3. When Connor broke 85 and we went and he bought all those tools at Harbor Freight. So like when there's a big one, of course we film and document that. But when it's just ice cream or something, we don't. But it's a good point of maybe we should. Joey said, I want to play in some tour series events next year, but distance is probably my main disadvantage. What would you qualify as tour distance now, quote unquote? It depends on the course. I would say that the majority of players on tour are accurate within 450, at least. You know, like, because even we were playing with like Isaac and Ezra Robinson when they were in town for Worlds, and I don't think anyone would consider them a top echelon distance people. And they were throwing on like, you know, hyzers with a little bit of flip up, not full distance, farther than I can throw a disc, period. And they're not a big distance guys. They just have that much control. And what that really gives them is just they can pick fairways and mids where people like me have to go full power distance drivers. So I would definitely say I would kind of put that that threshold probably around 450, not max distance power, but like controlled 450 is kind of the tour where like they're throwing a hyzer that flips up and finishes there is like a pretty good floor, because even some of the lower guys are doing that where they're coming in like 30th or 50th and they're doing that. Max distance, I think most people on tour can throw 500 without really thinking about it. T-Berg 1129 said, what is unique about being on a college disc golf team like Liberty? College disc golf in general is unique because it does a pretty good job of turning disc golf into team sport, the way that their format is, because all 4 people on the collegiate disc golf roster rely on each other, both during doubles and during the like single side. So I think that they do a really good job of that. What was unique with Liberty was we actually had like a coach. We actually had like backing from our school. So we had like a travel budget. We had gear that we got. We had regular practices every week. We traveled on a university bus. Heck, we flew to an event or two. That was unique about Liberty. All that just to lose to Ferris State. But that was what was unique specifically. I know other schools do that too now. But that was a unique aspect to have so much club sport backing in disc golf. But in college disc golf in general, it's just a great time overall. Shay Stevens said Drew Gibson qualified for USDGC. How cool is that? It's awesome. You know, yeah, he hasn't had the year I think he or anyone would want, but he could obviously turn all that around with USDGC. Leander06 says, what is your top 3 disc golf team, MVP, Discmania, and more? Well, we've been doing the Manufacturer Cup. And we've been doing the Manufacturer Cup all year, and Discmania leads it, Discrafts in second, Innova's in third, if I'm remembering it correctly. I think that's how it stands currently. So that would have to be my top 3. Discmania is definitely number 1. Discraft's definitely number 2, and I think it's Innova 3, but I can't quite remember. Is the drive down to Rock Hill safe? As far as I know, the drive from Lynchburg to Rock Hill doesn't really go through western North Carolina where all the devastation is. So I don't think that there's any of the main roads that you would take from Central Virginia down that are going to be out. But yeah, I mean, what that hurricane did is unreal. I mean, there's so many disc golfers impacted by it too, not just obviously the community is impacted, but it's also when it's like it starts to hit closer to home when you like know people that's like, oh shoot, that was my hometown that just literally got leveled, or like the whole neighborhood got picked up and carried down the street. Like I know stuff like that's happened, like Hurricane Katrina and stuff this is the one that's so close to me that like it's crazy because it was just mountain towns of North Carolina. Like when hurricanes hit here, right? Like, but by the time they hit here, similar to by the time it hit there, it's like they've come inland so much that by the time it hits us, it's like, oh, it's just some rain and stuff. Like that's all you ever think about. And it's just crazy that like they're still capable of doing that much damage this far inland. It's wild. And what's really scary about it is like beach towns, they have processes, they're ready, they know they have insurance, right? Like a lot of areas, and when you're this far inland, don't have like flood insurance or any type of like hurricane insurance. Heck, I think even like tornado insurance is like an extra thing. So it's just extra devastating from that part, just because like it's so unexpected and so you're just so unprepared for it. Because why would you be prepared? You're so far inland, and they're even more inland than I am in Lynchburg. So yeah, wild stuff. Mike said reviews on the iDog. I think it's technically pronounced like eDog or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. I like iDog because it makes me feel like it's an Apple product. But we actually just dropped a review 2 weeks ago on our disc review channel, which will be rebranded soon, but it'll still house informational content, we'll call it. But yeah, you can actually check that out. Connor and Brad went out and reviewed it, did a pretty in-depth review. They just did the Millet from Clash Discs this week, so you can check both of those out. Just search Foundation Disc Golf Reviews and you should see it pop up there. But yeah, Doc Zen said favorite new mold of 2024. Oh man, what even came out this year? What came out this year? I think the Detour came out this year. That's a really good mold. The Trail. Actually, the Trail is the only new mold of this year, and it's in my bag. So I'm going to go with the Trail. I think the Trail is my favorite mold of 2024. Leander said, what's the MVP disc you recommend for big Anheuser's? For mid-ranges, I think that the Hex or the Detour could be good for that. Both are very neutral, so if you throw them on Annie, they should give you that like slow panning flight. The Detour is going to cut over a little bit more. It depends more on how hard you're throwing. The Detour is going to be a little flippery. It's going to be a little easier to get that flight out of it versus the Hex is going to be a little bit more, you got to lean into it a little bit more, but both should give you that like slow pan, which I think is necessary for big Anheisers. But then when you get to fairways, I think it's the Relay that's like a flippier Crave, so I'd go the Crave or the Relay. And then distance drivers, probably the Wave. Doc Zen said he hasn't heard of the Trail. We'll look it up. You definitely should. The Trail's awesome. Jackson Durham said, thinking about possibly starting a YouTube channel with some of my buddies. What's your biggest tips/tricks for consistency and relevancy? Consistency is just on you. No one else is gonna you're in control of how consistently you upload and how consistently you do anything. So having buddies that'll keep you accountable, and like that's a big thing. Like if you're starting it as a group of like 2 or 3, it's a lot easier to be consistent every week because weeks you're not motivated, hopefully one of them are. But that is one of the big tips is like you gotta upload regularly, and then you gotta try to study why your videos are doing what they're doing. Because even if your first video gets 50 views and your next video gets 300 views, you might look at that and say, dang, neither video did great. But it's like, no, but why did that one do 6 times better than my first one? Because if you can figure that out, then hopefully you can figure out how to make your next one do 6 times better than that one and slowly grow it that way. But I think one of the big keys is you just got to do it because you enjoy it, not do it for results. And then as you do over time, if you genuinely enjoy it and get better and better and better, the results will come. But yeah. Garth Hollis said, we need more classic logo stamp discs. Got my free con passion. It looks amazing. Yeah, I like that. I like the script logo. We honestly just need more custom stamps in general. We have a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline, but I mean, I love this like combo logo. I love we don't run enough of the bar stamp, but it's tough just because like it's very agreeable, but it's also very boring. So like not everyone wants it, but it's one of those things of like it's good just to have on the shelf. So we definitely need to look into that some more. Brian Hargrave said, what move during the offseason do you think could be the biggest upset? Biggest upset, I don't know. Because I don't really know what that means per se in the scheme of disc golf. I think the biggest offseason move is going to be the Robinson brothers. Both of their contracts are up, according to Ulti World. So you have Isaac and Ezra, both top 10 players. But also, I think what's going to be interesting is, if I'm remembering correctly, you have Ezra Aderhold, Brody Smith, Anthony Barella, Adam Hammes, Corey Ellis's contracts all up with Discraft. Anthony Barella is probably the most valuable free agent currently just because of how marketable he is. And he got several wins this year. So I think the ones to really keep an eye on are Anthony Barella and what's his name? Isaac Robinson. I think they're kind of the most valuable that are free. But it'll be very interesting just to kind of watch how it all goes down. And then Nick says, what company is Isaac going to go to? I think it's going to be Discmania. I'd be pretty surprised. Discmania or Innova. And then Garth is asking, do you think they're going to go to the same team? Probably. But who knows? Who knows? I think what's tough for Ezra is as long as he goes to the same team until he starts winning, he will be in Isaac's shadow just because Isaac has 2 world titles, whereas like Ezra can be argued as the better player overall. So I don't know, but I feel like they will end up going to the same team because they're close. It's not just like, oh, we're brothers, whatever. Like they're very tight. So I think they would like being on the same team. Any chance Foundation could collab with the Clemson University Disc Golf Club team? I buy those discs like crazy. I think we'd have to like license the logo, which is just not going to happen. But you can buy Prodigy Clemson stamp Prodigy discs, I think. I think Clemson did that. So. You guys ever getting more of those Imperial hats anytime soon? I think these are Imperial hats. Yeah. I don't know if these are the ones you're talking about, but these are on the site right now. Just the Performance Dad hats. At least they should be. I don't know about the other ones. The Bogey Bro ones. What's October's subscription box looking like? It's going to be a great box. We haven't fully revealed everything, but we're going kind of... If you watch this past Weekly Warehouse, it tells you a lot about it. Without revealing it, because it's easiest if I kind of show you some of the discs without revealing what they are. But it's got kind of a like confidential, out of this world vibe to it, if that makes sense. But I'm very excited about it. There's one disc in there that has been released once, and then we have the second public release of that disc, that specific disc, in this box. And I don't think it might be released by that manufacturer. We're also the first retailers to have our hands on it. It might be released by that manufacturer, I think, one more time the rest of this year, if I know correctly. And I'll give you another hint. They released a different version Monday. Didn't know that one was coming, but it's apparently a like more overstable version of this disc that you should know what I'm talking about, but you might not, that I'm alluding to. So very excited about that, because the subscription box is the only way you're getting your hands on that one. And so, yeah. Brian Hargrave says, how long have I been tournament directing? I heard you mention being a TD before and would definitely be interested in tip videos or shorts. The first tournament that I directed would have been, 2016 or 2017, somewhere in there. So it's been a solid 7 or 8 years of doing it. I don't really do it anymore. I typically run like one tournament a year. I think I'm giving that one up. It's a lot of effort, and I'm not really a type A person. I did it out of necessity back in the day, just because this community didn't have many tournaments back then. Now we have a ton of tournaments. So I help run tournaments and we sponsor tournaments, but I don't like the customer service aspect that comes with it, because it turns into like a full-time job of just answering the same questions over and over and over. And I'm very thankful for people who enjoy that aspect of it. I'm just not one of those people. The biggest tournament I ever ran was the Battle for Bedford, which still lives on. It's actually this year called the Kenny Palmer Memorial, and I still help with that one, and we're one of the big sponsors of it. But I started that tournament with Foundation in 2019, and we ran it through 2021. And I think in 2021, there was a solid, actually I can look up Battle for Bedford, because it was pretty big. I think it was 2021 that it was the biggest. We had 342 players in 2021 with a pro purse of $20,000. I think we had close to $10,000 added cash. It was just a B tier. And yeah, we had 100 open players. MA2 was our next biggest at 57. We also had 57 rec players. It was across 4 or 5 courses. It was a great time. It just when you're running a tournament that big across that many courses, it was just so much work. I just didn't, what it really came down to is I just didn't enjoy it, and it was just such a stressful part of my year that I just don't do it anymore. Are shark hunters ever re-releasing So Money? Maybe. I don't know yet. We're dropping the Hunter Bird at USDGC, which is my first ever true custom stamp. The Shark Hunter kind of was, but this one's on a Thunderbird, which is my all-time favorite disc. So I'm super excited for people to get that. So that's releasing at USDGC, and we'll probably have the leftovers on the site. So that'll be the next one coming, which is it's pretty cool. I'm excited about it. It's my first time I've stamped just a full disc based just on me ever. Because the Shark Hunter obviously played a lot on the me and Trevor rivalry with the Shark and the MD3. So there was a whole story behind that. The Hunter Bird is just I love the Thunderbird. So we shortened it to Hunter Bird, and it's a fun stamp. So we'll see. Gbon V3 says, how's it been having your own personal office away from the guys in the new space? It's been fun. The door is always open, so I'm basically in the office. It's more just nice because when I have to take calls or I have to have a meeting with someone, I have a space for it now. So it's been nice from that aspect. I also enjoy being able to have a shelf that I can display stuff on. But yeah. Let's see. Take a few more questions, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Do you see the baby explosion from so many of the upper disc golf players affecting the disc golf in years to come? No, because the up-and-comers, the people who are having kids are on the tail end of their career, or at least midway to late in their career, and then you have the Gannon Burrs, the Anthony Barella, the Robinson brothers, even the Sullivan Tipton, Luke Taylor. You have so many players that are just incredibly talented that are just starting their career. So it'll affect the people who are my age, my fan base, because obviously we love seeing the Paul, Simon, Ricky, all of that. But yeah, I don't see it affecting disc golf as a whole. I think the product is going to keep getting better. David said, will Foundation ever consider / be able to sponsor a Pro Tour event? We're able to, and I'm not going to say we would never consider it, but we will consider it when the price per attention makes more sense. In my opinion, it just is overpriced for the amount of attention. And so therefore, I am not interested in spending that money right now because I can buy attention elsewhere for cheaper. So that's where we're at right now. I understand the like brand awareness play that a lot of companies are making. We're just not there with our marketing. So will we ever? Maybe one day. But the big thing that would make it is if the attention either greatly rose and the price stayed the same, or the price decreased with the attention staying the same. So, yeah. Which is another point Will Hudson said, why'd y'all stop doing the charity target raised basket base? To be honest with you, we spent more doing advertising on that than money that actually went to charity, for it to be forgotten by the Pro Tour a lot of times, and not really pushed by the standard it should have been. And so instead, we just do charity work on our own now. We do a bunch of charity live streams. We just helped the Isaiah 117 house run their charity disc golf event. We just did a video with them, doing the like team foundation battle. All the money from that's going to charity, so on and so forth. So we actually are able to donate more to charity by not doing that than when we were doing that, which is hilarious because obviously the whole point of that was like giving money to charity, but it was like we end up just the Pro Tour ended up being the charity more than the actual charities because we could do more impact for good by spending the money that we had to spend to sponsor the basket on actually just giving money to charity without making a bunch of noise about it. So that's what we do now. Ryan said MrBeast isn't getting canceled for personal reasons, being canceled for his business practice and how he runs his YouTube channel. Maybe don't take his advice. So he's getting, it's basically he's taking it. It is personal in my perspective because he's just not. This is my perspective, just not a great person, if that makes sense. So like the decisions he's making is because of how well he knows YouTube and the extent he's willing to go to make that stuff happen because YouTube's taken over his entire life, which is personal. So that's why I'm not taking his business advice by any means, because I've said for a long time, but I mean, this is true with a lot of people that build crazy successful companies. It's like they just sacrifice morals at a lot of crossroads for the sake of making more money or growing at the sake of all costs. But that doesn't mean that you can't take knowledge from them of what they gleaned along the way, because like his knowledge on what's going to make a video do good is extremely valuable, but then having the moral compass to not go to the lengths he goes to make that stuff happen is what will separate people out, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm saying personal, is because it's just like, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Because what he knows about YouTube and how to get video, I mean, you can look at the results. He knows YouTube better than anyone. But yeah. So, okay, we're going to wrap it up. I do want to shout out, Shay said, any plans for a Hurricane charity disc? We don't, only because for us to get that disc in will take several weeks if we work with a manufacturer. But I did see, I think it's only Prodigy that's doing it so far. Hopefully other companies do. But Prodigy has a Hurricane charity disc. I believe it's a PA5. I'm not exactly sure. So please support that one. Because they're able to like stamp it in-house and get it turned around quick. So we had thought about doing like a charity t-shirt or something like that, but once I saw Prodigy was doing the disc, in disc golf, the disc is just going to do better. So I personally am donating to Samaritan's Purse for their hurricane relief efforts. It actually is like pretty much, I think it's like where their headquarters is. But I know there's a bunch of great charities that are doing awesome stuff down there during all of this. So, but if you're interested disc golf related, definitely check out Prodigy. Prodigy's doing a hurricane relief disc, so you can check that out. And that's going to wrap up the stream. Appreciate all of you tuning in, and we will talk to you all again next week. See you then.